hot Nairobi sun beat down on the crowded streets, shimmering over the tarmac like liquid fire. Madhattas roared by with their loud music. Boda-bodas weaved dangerously between cars, and street vendors shouted their prices, trying to lure in buyers. In the midst of all this noise and chaos was Brian, a young man who carried both pride and disappointment on his shoulders. He had just graduated from the University of Nairobi, his parents' faces glowing with pride on that day, their dreams for him shining brighter than the graduation gowns. His degree certificate had felt like gold in his hands, solid proof that all the years of sleepless nights, struggles, and sacrifices had been worth it. But outside the gates of the university, reality had waited for him like a hungry lion. Jobs were scarce. The economy was harsh. Every interview he attended ended the same way. "We'll get back to you." And they never did. Weeks turned into months, and Brian quickly realized that the dream of getting a well-paying job immediately after graduation was just that, a dream. Yet Brian was not the kind to sit idle. He refused to be defeated. When opportunities for formal employment closed, he turned to odd jobs. He washed cars at a dusty car wash in Eastleigh, carried luggage for hurried travelers at the bus station, and sometimes helped street vendors push their heavy mkokoteni carts uphill for a small tip. Through all this, one thing kept him going: love. Her name was Cynthia, his girlfriend. She was beautiful, with skin smooth like cocoa butter and eyes that sparkled even when she was angry. They had met back in campus, and though life after graduation had been tough, Cynthia had stuck by him. She would sometimes accompany him to the car wash, sitting quietly on a plastic chair under a shade, scrolling through her phone while he worked. Brian adored her. To him, she was proof that life wasn't completely unfair. Even in poverty, he felt rich with love. At the car wash, Brian had many customers, but there was one he respected most, Mr. Hassan, an elderly businessman with a silver beard and kind eyes. Mr. Hassan drove a black Mercedes-Benz that gleamed like a mirror under the Nairobi sun. He wasn't just a customer. He was more like a mentor. He always tipped generously and often stayed to chat with Brian about life, business, and resilience. One afternoon, Brian had taken Cynthia with him to the car wash. When Mr. Hassan arrived in his Benz, Brian felt proud to introduce her. "Sir, this is Cynthia, my girlfriend," he said, smiling proudly. Mr. Hassan's eyes lit up as he looked at her. "Ooh, wow, what a pretty lady you have here," the old man said warmly. "I hope you're taking good care of her, because she is a jewel." Brian blushed and chuckled, scratching the back of his head. "I'm trying my best, sir." Cynthia smiled shyly, and for a moment, Brian felt like the luckiest man alive. He then went to work, scrubbing the Benz with extra care, while Cynthia and Mr. Hassan exchanged light conversation. By the time the wash was done, Brian was dripping with sweat, but the car sparkled as if fresh from a showroom. When it was time for payment, Brian reached for his small cabin phone, only to realize it had switched off again. The battery had been giving him problems for days. Embarrassed, he scratched his head. "Ah, Cynthia, please give him your number so he can send the money to you," he told his girlfriend. Mr. Hassan nodded politely and sent the payment through mobile money. But that day, something unusual happened. Normally, he tipped Brian 2,000 shillings. That day, he sent 10,000. Brian's eyes widened when Cynthia showed him the confirmation message. 10,000, he whispered in shock. Mr. Hassan only smiled. "You deserve it, my boy. Keep working hard." As Brian walked Cynthia home that evening, he couldn't stop smiling. "My girlfriend must be a lucky charm," he thought. "Maybe her presence brings blessings." But what Brian didn't know was that night, a seed had been planted. A seed that would grow into betrayal. That night, after parting ways with Brian, Cynthia sat on her bed, staring at her phone. The 10,000 shillings Mr. Hassan had sent was still sitting in her M-Pesa balance, untouched. She had never held that much money in her phone before, not from her own efforts, at least. She thought of her best friend, Sheila, who often bragged about sponsors who made her life easier. Cynthia had always said she wasn't that kind of girl. She had Brian, a man who loved her truly. He had little, but he had heart. That was enough, wasn't it? As she was still lost in thought, her phone buzzed. It was a new message. "Good evening, Cynthia. I hope you reached home safely. I want you to know you are truly a beautiful lady, and you deserve the best in life. Mr. Hassan." Her eyebrows shot up. Why is he texting me like this? She hesitated, her finger hovering over the screen. She knew she should ignore it, but curiosity tugged at her. She typed back, "Good evening, sir. Thank you. I reached safely." Within seconds, another reply came. "Good, I couldn't help but notice your smile today. It lit up my entire afternoon. You are truly a jewel, just as I said. If you allow me, I would love to treat you better than life has been treating you." Her heart skipped. She bit her lip. She knew what this meant. Over the next few days, the messages grew more frequent. At first, they were compliments: her eyes, her hair, her smile. Then they turned into promises of trips, expensive gifts, and a life she had only dreamed of. One afternoon, as she was folding clothes, her phone buzzed again. A mobile money notification. KSH, 70,000 deposited. Cynthia's jaw dropped. Her hands trembled as she reread the message. 70,000. For what? Almost immediately, another text followed. "Go and buy yourself something nice. You deserve to shine." Her heart raced. She had never seen that much money in her life. Without thinking too much, she rushed to the supermarket and filled 2 trolleys rice, sugar, flour, cooking oil, everything her small bedsitter had been lacking. She bought clothes, shoes, and even a new handbag. For the first time, she felt like she was living. That evening, Brian came home from a long day of washing cars. He opened the door and froze. The tiny bedsitter looked like a different place, shelves stocked, bags of shopping neatly piled up, and a new perfume scent in the air. "Cynthia, where did you get all this?" he asked, his eyes wide in shock. Cynthia's mind raced. She couldn't possibly tell him the truth. So she forced a smile and said, "Oh, my best friend Sheila gave me some money. She said I've been stressing too much, so she wanted to help." Brian's eyes softened. Wow, that was kind of her. He pulled Cynthia into a hug. "You see, God always provides." But Cynthia felt a pang of guilt. Brian's trust in her was so pure, it almost hurt. Days turned into weeks, and Mr. Hassan's generosity grew. Cynthia suddenly had new clothes, a shiny new smartphone, and jewelry that made her sparkle like the city lights at night. Brian noticed the changes, but didn't question much. He was too busy trying to earn a living, and deep down, he didn't want to seem insecure. He told himself she deserves nice things. Maybe her friend keeps helping her, or maybe she's just lucky. But slowly, Cynthia started changing. She no longer accompanied him to the car wash as often. She began declining his calls, saying she was busy. When they met, she scrolled through her new phone more than she listened to his stories. One evening, as they sat outside, Brian noticed her staring into space, smiling at her phone. He asked softly, "Who are you chatting with?" She quickly locked the screen. "Oh, just Sheila. Nothing serious." Brian nodded, though a small seed of doubt had begun to grow in his heart. The final blow came on a Sunday evening. Brian had taken Cynthia out to a small cabana cafe, treating her to chips and soda. It wasn't much, but it was all he could afford, and he was proud to share it with her. As they sat eating, Cynthia looked uncomfortable. She put down her soda and sighed. "Brian, I think we need to talk." He frowned. "About what?" She avoided his gaze. "About us. Things are changing. I don't think this relationship is working anymore." Brian's heart clenched. He dropped his fork. "What are you saying?" "I mean," she hesitated, then blurted out, "I want to end this. I don't feel the same way anymore." The world seemed to spin around Brian. He stared at her, his mind refusing to process the words. After everything, after the sacrifices, the love, the dreams they had shared, she wanted to end it. But instead of begging, Brian took a deep breath, blinked back tears, and whispered, "If that's what you want, then no worries. You'll come back. One day, you'll realize what we had." Cynthia looked at him, almost annoyed by his calmness. She picked her handbag, stood, and walked away, leaving him sitting there in silence, staring at the half-eaten plate of chips. 2 weeks later, Brian was back at the car wash, scrubbing mud off a dusty SUV. His shirt clung to his sweaty back, but his mind was elsewhere. He still thought about Cynthia, though he tried to bury the pain under work. Then a familiar black Mercedes-Benz pulled up. Mr. Hassan's car. Brian forced a smile and waved, ready to work. But before he could approach, the passenger door opened and Cynthia stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a designer dress, laughing as she adjusted her hair. Brian's hands froze. His sponge slipped from his fingers and fell to the ground. Mr. Hassan stepped out and put an arm around her shoulders. He looked at Brian and smiled slyly. "Didn't I tell you? She's a jewel, and jewels must be taken care of." Brian's chest tightened. His knees felt weak. He could barely breathe. The woman he loved, the woman he had planned